Starting at the bottom and climbing to the top is something that many brands experience. But Doritos took it to a whole other level. Starting out as mere garbage, the chips managed to crawl their way to greatness, and by doing so, the brand became the multi-billion-dollar business that it is today. Curious to find out how they made it happen? Then keep watching! While several people played an important role in the making of Doritos, no one had a bigger influence than Archibald Clark West. Born to Scottish immigrants in Indiana in 1914, Archibald had a tough childhood. After his father passed away, Arch's mother was too poor to take care of him, so she made the heartbreaking decision to send him and his brother to an orphanage. In a true American dream story, the young man eventually managed to rise above his dirt-poor roots when he was offered a scholarship at Franklin College. He graduated with a degree in business in 1936 and went on to serve in the Navy during World War II. Once the war was over, Arch put his degree to use by working as a traveling sales representative and advertising manager. And by 1960, he found himself working for the Frito Company in Dallas, Texas. That's when his fortunes really took off after he stumbled upon a delicious triangle-shaped snack. But while Arch played a major role in Doritos' story, he wasn't the one who invented the snack. That title goes to a savvy salesman who wanted to recycle Disneyland's trash. Well, kind of. Disneyland is a dream, and as with all dreams, building them can take a lot of time, energy, and money. Walt Disney's vision had always been bigger than life. He was known for his optimism, joy, and innovation, and he wanted his theme park to burst with the same qualities. He set out to create an unforgettable experience, not only for kids but also for adults. And by adding a little touch of magic, he knew that people would always keep coming back for more. But the kind of magic he was looking for, unfortunately, wasn't free. When Walt first began creating the park, he didn't have the cash on hand to complete the project. To raise money, he had to be inventive, and one of the things he did was to allow private companies to run restaurants within the park. The first Disneyland opened its doors in July of 1955 in Anaheim, California. And not too much later, the Frito Company opened a Casa de Fritos in Disneyland's Frontierland. Casa de Fritos was a Mexican-style restaurant that served standard Tex-Mex food, and every meal included a complimentary bag of Fritos. The restaurant was a hit. Despite not making its own tortillas, that job was contracted out to a local tortilla factory named Alex Foods. One day, a salesman from Alex Foods made a delivery to Casa de Fritos when he noticed the restaurant was dumping massive amounts of stale tortillas in the trash. He thought it was a huge waste, and he gave the kitchen a tip. Instead of throwing them away, cut them up and fry them. This way, they could sell them as chips. The cook followed the advice, and he seasoned them with his own special blend of spices. Customers loved the snack, and without informing the Frito Company, Casa de Fritos put the chips on the menu as a regular item. Now, before you begin thinking that the salesman invented tortilla chips, it's good to know that the original chip is actually credited to numerous people. As with most snacks, cooks around the world had already been frying and cooking leftover corn dough hundreds of years prior. And around the turn of the last century, a man named Jose Bartolome Martinez had opened the first massive flour mill in the United States. Nicknamed the Corn King, Jose was the first manufacturer of mass-produced tamalina, which is dehydrated corn flour. Noticing the daily leftovers, he began to use the excess produce to make corn chips for restaurants. To make sure that they were the perfect snacks for dipping, he went for a triangle shape with a medium thickness, and many people credit him for being the first person to commercialize corn chips. Others credit Rebecca Webb Carranza, who began frying tortilla pieces at her Southern California tortilla factory all the way back in the 1940s. Either way, although Casa de Frito's new creation wasn't 100% unique, it definitely was a hit, and the cook's seasonal blending gave the chips a distinct taste. 1 year later, the Frito Company and H.W. Lay merged to become Frito-Lay, and it was around this time that Archibald Clark West made his discovery. While on a holiday with his family, Arch paid a visit to the Casa de Frito's restaurant. He was working as a marketing executive for Frito, and he wanted to see how things were going. That's when he noticed the recycled snack that was being served to the customers. As Casa de Fritos never informed Frito-Lay about their new item, you could assume that Arch would have been angry. But that wasn't the case at all. In fact, he felt like he had stumbled upon a gold mine. And when he returned to work, he eagerly pitched the idea of selling packaged tortilla chips to his bosses. Unfortunately for him, however, they weren't as excited. At this point, Frito-Lay had 4 main products: Fritos, Cheetos, Lay's, and Ruffles. Combined, they brought in over $127 million in revenue, but soon enough, that number would grow into billions, and they had Arch West to thank for it. Coming from New York, Arch had always been the first outsider the Texas-based Frito-Lay had brought in, and they made sure to remind him of that every step of the way. When he proposed the tortilla chips idea, the Frito-Lay board argued that Americans wouldn't be interested. After all, why would they want tortilla chips when they already had perfectly good corn chips like Fritos? They feared the new invention would eat up Frito's market share, and their instructions were crystal clear: abort the tortilla chips plan. But as you can probably guess, the story didn't end there. Not to be deterred, Arch secretly funneled money to work out his concept in an off-site facility. Once the product was done, he tested it out in San Diego. And after noticing its success, he began working hard on a new and, hopefully, more successful pitch. To convince the board that his creation was delicious, they decided to hand out samples. And to assure them that the idea was worthy of their money and time, he marketed the snacks as being more than just tortilla chips. They were Doritos. Why that name? Well, in Spanish, Doritos means little golden things, and the name was made up by Arch. He wanted to find something that would rhyme well with Fritos and Cheetos, and noticing the chips had a somewhat golden hue, he asked someone what the word for gold is in Spanish. Oro, he was told. He then added the diminutive suffix ito and placed a D in front, because he felt like it, and that's how he came up with the name. During the pitch, Arch was well aware that he had done something behind the company's back, but so far, the snack had turned out to be a success. And that's all that counts, right? Arch put a lot of emphasis on the fact that Doritos was already a huge hit, and it seemed like seeing the chip's popularity and getting to taste it themselves was enough to finally get the execs on board as well. They contacted Alex Foods to produce the snacks, and in 1964, the Doritos brand was born. After Doritos' initial success, Frito-Lay decided to move forward with selling them nationally in 1966. Up until then, Doritos was selling well in the southwest of the United States. There, locals knew exactly what to do with a triangle-shaped chip. You cover it with dip. But in the rest of the US, most people didn't know what to do with it. And the fact that the chips sounded Mexican, but oddly didn't taste Mexican, only added to the confusion. But once again, Arch couldn't be deterred, and realizing that they would need more than just plain-flavored Doritos to convince the rest of the country, he began experimenting with high-tech flavoring technology. The first flavor was released in 1966, toasted corn. Then came the taco flavor in 1967, followed by nacho cheese in 1972. Little by little, Doritos was taking over every state, and with increased production, also came a need for a bigger factory. By the time the taco flavor was invented, Alex Foods was already out of the game, and Doritos had become a Frito-Lay production. While Arch retired from his position as vice president of marketing in 1971, he remained committed to Doritos until his death, and even continued testing out new flavors over the years. His favorite was plain corn, although he also liked Cool Ranch a lot too. Today, Doritos is the top-ranked tortilla chip brand in the United States. The Golden Triangles bring in a revenue of over $2 billion every year, and they can be enjoyed in 37 different countries. Over the years, more than 100 flavors have been created, and they range from classic to wacky. Think late-night cheeseburger, ranch-dipped chicken wings, and Mountain Dew. Archibald himself was truly a lifelong Dorito fan, and he loved his invention so much that he asked his family to pour Doritos in his grave. And that's what they did. In 2011, a 97-year-old Arch passed away due to complications of vascular surgery. Just a year earlier, his wife had passed away too. At his funeral, his family granted his wish, and to make sure that his favorite snack could always be with him, they tossed Doritos chips into his grave. What flavor did they use? Well, shortly before he died, Arch had tasted a cheeseburger-flavored Dorito and spat it out in disgust, so it certainly wasn't that one. His daughter Jana said, "If you're wondering what flavor was used at his funeral service, it was just the plain one. Otherwise, people would say, 'Thanks, Jana, I've got nacho all over my hand.'" This was the story of Doritos. More than half a century ago, the delicious snack was nothing more than Disneyland's trash. But then, a savvy salesman convinced the cooks to reuse the leftovers instead of throwing them away. Eventually, Arch West got a hold of them too. And he made sure to not let this gold mine go to waste, even if that meant going behind his boss's backs. What did you learn from this video? And did you already know of Doritos' history? Share it in the comments. One thing that I won't forget is the next time that I'm opening a pack of Doritos, I can pat myself on the back. After all, eating Doritos is not just snacking, it's recycling. Did you enjoy this video? And did you want to learn more about interesting backstories of the world's biggest companies? Then don't forget to check out our channel.